welcome into my queendom. Come one, come all. When it comes to
blood, that all you need to don't play it so light.
And
You are an intelligent black man. You are the master of your own fate. The white man has been scared of you for years because of everything that is in your blood, that all you need to do is activate and you will become the captain, the man of whatever you set your mind to. For 400 years, we were held in captivity. We built this country for them, and they still expect us to pay taxes. And yet, we've managed to thrive. They didn't have to do no work. They had 400 years of free labor. And we still have become millionaires and billionaires and this and that. Imagine if we actually really took that and put it to work. Imagine what you could do. Stop playing it so light. You're heavy. Talk heavy, baby. Talk heavy. Don't play it so light.
And
you are an intelligent black man. You are the master of your own fate. The white man has been scared of you for years because of everything that is in your blood, that all you need to do is activate and you will become the captain, the man of whatever you set your mind to. For 400 years, we were held in captivity. We built this country for them, and they still expect us to pay taxes. And yet, we've managed to thrive. They didn't have to do no work. They had 400 years of free labor. And we still have become millionaires and billionaires and this and that. Imagine if we actually really took that and put it to work. Imagine what you could do. Stop playing it so light. You're heavy. Talk heavy, baby. Talk heavy. Don't play it so light.
And
you are an intelligent black man. You are the master of your own fate. The white.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, whatever time you're watching this. Hope you're enjoying your day. It's me again, Uncle D, the Devious Griot, coming to ask you guys a question, or ask where the onus of this responsibility should be, because I'm a little at a loss as to how stupid we're actually going to be. So I noticed still that there are people who are banning books and things like that. So I was curious about, how much are we going to trust people who have historically left us out of our own history and never told the truth about what our actual contributions were. In fact, they actually told lies and called us lazy and things like that, said that the black women were sexually promiscuous. They told all these lies, right? And then we want them to teach our children history. Now, they've taken out the black part in a lot of places, and they're still fighting to do that. And as I'm trying to understand, why would we leave it to these people to teach children anything about us? Why would you leave it to people who actually want, why would you, even if they said right now, you know what, we're going to add black history back into the books, we're going to, talk about it with the kids. Why would you trust them? Why? What is it about these people that tells you that they are trustworthy, that they have your best interest at heart, that they are going to do right by your children? Please tell me what it is that makes you so certain that this is a fight worth fighting. Because see, this is the smoke and mirrors that you'll hear me talk about from time to time, because what I don't understand for the life of me is how, after all they've done, we actually trust them to tell our story. It's our laziness in a way. It's our unwillingness to do it ourselves. Yeah. And we have to get with that. Like, we are not lazy people as a people, but when it comes to certain things, we have handed the rein. And listen, let me back up a little bit from that, because what I need you to understand is that it is entirely a program. You have been trained, you have been taught, it has been drilled into our heads to hand over any important matters to them, to the people who would say that they don't want black history in our books. That whole ilk, whatever you want to call them. I won't even name them, I won't term them, because we know who they are. So why would we trust them to do that? we have to take up our own mantle. This is the only thing that I can speak about. This is the only thing I want to talk about. How it is that we can go and begin to have the conversations that we need to have in order to improve our situation in this country, because we are now here in 2023. It is not 1965. It is not 1912. It is not any of those times when it was much harder, but you really can't tell. In a lot of ways, you can't tell that it is still not 100 years ago. The ideas of people is what I'm talking about. The ideas of people in this country have not changed. We have not changed hearts and minds, and it's because no one wants those hearts and minds to be changed. They like the conflict, the strife. They like people at odds. They do not want people to come together. They want you right here at each other's throats and at each other's necks. They want you always to look at each other suspiciously. They want us to look at each other suspiciously, not just black and brown people, so-called. They want us to look at every other race suspiciously. They definitely want every other race to look at us suspiciously, because they understand something that we do not understand, that the minute that we take our attention off of them and put it right back here where it belongs, it's over. It's game over. The game will be over as soon as black and brown so-called people take our focus and put it right back in our community where it belongs. And I'm not talking about protests. I'm not talking about sit-ins. I'm not talking about voting. I'm not talking about any of that, because all of that, in my opinion, is bullshit. All of that, in my opinion, again, and I know y'all are going to be like, oh my God, why did he say that? Oh my God, people died to vote. They died to give you choices. If you do not understand that your ancestors did not die to give you the opportunity to pick two of the same people that the people who want to oppress you tell you, they tell you that these are your two candidates, these are the only two people in the world that you can pick from, or the only 4 people in the world, or however many it is they're going to throw up in your face. They tell you these are the only people who are qualified and eligible at this time to do this. That's what they want us to believe. Each and every one of us, if you're watching this video, you've probably talked with someone who's more qualified to be president than the people that we have in the office right now. You've talked to a professor, you've talked to a businessman, you've talked to one of your friends who is just educated and knows some shit and could probably, more than likely, would do a better job running this country more honestly than the people who we've elected previously. And I mean all of them. All of them. All of them. It's a shit show. And I am not the person who is going to point you in the direction of which book to read, which sources to look up. I'm not going to point you to any of that. I'm going to tell you that there's a search engine called Google. There's several of them. You don't have to use Google. You can use Safari. If you have iPhone, you can use whatever they're using. If it's Safari, I think, or whatever it is. Use that stuff. Because see, we are at a time in history, never before, never has so much information been available to so many people. You can look up anything you want and get good, reputable sources of information on whatever it is you would like to talk about, whatever it is you would like to think about, whatever it is you don't understand. And I implore each and every one of you to pick a holiday. Pick any holiday that you and your family and loved ones love to celebrate. Pick a holiday, right? And research the holiday, and particularly if it's a religious holiday. Find out how it came to be. Find out the origins of said holiday. Find out the brutality behind the holiday. Find out if there's bloodshed behind that holiday. Find out if there is oppression behind that holiday. Find out if people like you were allowed to celebrate that holiday. Find out. See, I'm often asked, people's like, well, what started you, to thinking about all the things you think about and talk about all the things you talk about. Christmas. Christmas is what, really? I've always loved finding out things. Education and information, always been a good friend of mine. I've never been allergic to it. In fact, when somebody, I don't know where the phrase originated, if they want to hide something, they'll put it in the book. If people want to hide something from black people, it's really how the saying is in my head. If they want to hide something from black people, they will put it in the book. Okay, now I need to read the books. Because I don't like people hiding things from me. I don't understand why you would need to do that. So, Christmas. I began researching Christmas when I found out Christmas was once a pagan holiday. It wasn't even Christian. Christians wouldn't celebrate it. It was actually illegal in England, and I think the Americas, in the early part of the Americas, it was actually illegal. And now they shut down everything to celebrate this. Find out how bloody Valentine's Day, the real, how it came into pass and become a holiday. Find out about these things. Find out about your religion. If you are a person who attends or has a faith and attends, the things that they say attend, whatever different religions have different things that they call it. You know what your religion calls it. Find out. Because in the name of God, so many people have been killed. In the name of God, so many people have been persecuted. So many people have been tortured. So many people have been jailed. So many people have been, scores of people. What's happening now over in Israel, in Palestine, in the name of religion. Isn't that great? This is what we do. This is what we do. So, I put up a post last night before I went to bed because I was curious in reference to what I'm talking about now. And I asked the question, I said, why, I'm paraphrasing now, but why doesn't the black church teach black history? As much money and as much time and as much thought that they don't want you to think, why not at least fill it with the facts from history? That sounds like it would be a good instrumental. You would get droves of people back into church. I'd go. If you have a real course in black studies that is amazing and is going to reveal some information that I have never heard before, I will be in the first pew. So why doesn't the black church teach black history? And I put it up and the people, answered. They jumped right up. Some people kind of took it a little far, but such is life. But one pervading thought is black ministers don't know it. Enough black ministers do not know enough black history to be able to teach it to their congregation. Reference material. Last night I was watching a documentary called Contradiction, A Question of Faith, I think is the name of it. It's on Amazon Prime. If you put in Contradiction, A Question of Faith, it should come up. And I'm watching this, my friend of mine was watching it, and so she said, I wanted you to watch it, so I immediately watched it. And it turns out I had seen it already. But I'm watching this documentary, and it said one of the problems with black churches and the leadership in black churches is that there are very few credentials that you have to have in order to open a black church. All you have to say is that I was called by God and have the resources to begin the church, fill out for a clergy license thing or whatever, and that's it. There's no educational requirement. You don't have to have a certain degree. You don't have to have anything. A 6-year-old can wake up one day and say, I was called by, and in fact, it's happened many, many, many times, can wake up and say, I was called by God and begin preaching. Look up old episodes of the Oprah Winfrey Show. She's had children ministers on there who say that they were called by God. And these children could spit chapter and verse. They didn't know what it meant. Because Oprah asked him, she asked one of the young men at one point to quote some verse about something, and then she asked him what it meant. And he just kept changing the words around because he doesn't know. There's no educational requirement to become a minister, which is why it was easy to do, and traditionally has been taught by people who are uneducated. People were only educated enough in the early part of this country to read the Bible. That was it. To count and read the Bible. Reading was to be able to read the Bible, to be able to follow along and read the Bible. That was it. So, in contradiction, a question of faith, there are all these people who are testifying to the fact that Jesus is the center of their life. There's this woman, I love this woman, she's smoking crack, and the interviewer walks up to her on the street, and he's interviewing her on the street, and she's smoking crack. And he asks her about God and everything, like, Jesus is the head of my life. He said, so do you think Jesus can take the crack, this addiction away from you? She said, I think he'll take the taste out of my mouth. But she's still smoking as the interview is happening. And this woman, having no first-hand contact with any person named Jesus, never really experienced, you haven't met Jesus. And, the only reason you think Jesus is in your heart is because that's what you've been told over and over and over again. If you sit in church long enough, that's the message. So you believing it or saying that you know it or whatever is just a matter of it having been drummed into you over and over and over again. And you can argue and you can get upset and you can feel triggered and feel like, oh no, I know God, God knows me. I know Jesus is real, yada, yada, yada. You can do all of that. Nobody can tell me. Nobody can tell you. I am at the point in my development where I am teaching myself to allow people to keep whatever it is they want to believe. Keep it. It is not here for me to change it. I'm going to talk about what I'm going to talk about, regardless of the fact that you feel triggered. Because there is nobody alive, period, who has experienced Jesus. You've had feelings of elation and joyous affection in regard to a thought that has been placed into your head and cultivated over the course of your life. This is a religious country, regardless of the fact that there's supposed to be a separation of church and state. There's no separation of church and state. Everything that we have has God or religion in it here. You go into court. You have the Bible or whatever you're supposed to swear on. There's supposed to be some holy book. If you're an atheist, there's something else you can swear on, or you just swear, basically, to tell the truth. But nobody has had any firsthand, one-on-one experience with an entity called Jesus, or God for that matter. Not in the way that most people talk about God and Jesus. Not in that sense. No one has. Anyone who says they have has had the greatest mushrooms probably they have. Or grown. It could be ayahuasca. Whatever, I'm being insulting. I apologize. I'm not here to insult you. What I'm saying is we need to look more, we need to have an objective level of truth that everybody, that we use when we talk about these things that people believe. That's going to always be my stance. So that there is a baseline where you have to have proof. You have to have something that says that is definable, that is, scientific, something that is calculable, because otherwise it's just fairy tales. You believing in Jesus is no different than 5-year-olds believing in Santa. It really isn't. The kids have no more, in fact, they probably believe stronger, because you'll at least see kids attempt to be good for Santa. You don't see people try to be good for Jesus. You see people try to be good to avoid going to hell. That's the other problem with religion, is because it's a scare tactic to try and make people be good that has backfired for the most part, because we don't teach genuine, objective morality. We don't. Not in this country. We don't teach it that way, because you wouldn't need religion to do that. All you would need is your experiences and your senses. You know what you like done to you and what you don't like done to you. The basis of morals is drawn off of that, and you're experiencing the world of what's fair and what's unfair, what you like and what you don't like. It comes from that. And as a community, we all agree that there are certain things that feel the same to us. Somebody taking your shit without your permission is something that feels fucked up. So let's not do that in this society. Somebody killing you is depriving you of your life, and your family of you. It's not something that anybody else should have the right to do. So let's not do that. Those types of things, collectively, we don't need a God to tell us not to do them. We understand that it hurts. We understand that it causes people pain. So we don't do it so that we don't affect people negatively. That's the reason. You don't have to believe in an entity outside of yourself to come to those conclusions if you are a human being. If you are other than human, you might need somebody to tell you what morality is. Humans can discern morality for themselves by observing their surroundings and their experiences. You do not need a book. And not for nothing, but in the book, the person telling you not to do all these things does all of them. And they go, oh, well, that's because that's God. God is the person who can do all of it. God is a hypocrite in the Bible, because he will tell you not to kill people and he will kill people. And as quiet as it's kept, God is a liar, because he does some things and then he undoes some things. And if God was unchanging and never changing in all things, omnipotent, omniscient, and ubiquitous, all those things at the same time, there's no room for changing that. We can argue that in the comments if you all would like to. That's really philosophical. But I think we are at the point in our history, in this world, not just in this country, in this world, where we need to have objective truth, a level of objective truth that we all understand and agree to. Just like we can all look at a tree and go, that's a tree. We can go touch that tree. We can go pull all the leaves off if we would want to, and climb it and whatever, cut it down and make desks, whatever. It's a tree. We understand what a tree is. We have a truth about trees that we understand. We don't have that type of thing when it comes to this thing that we call God. Nobody has, in the empirical world, experienced anything on that level. And it's curious to me, if you have this entity who is all these things, why would he just leave a book? He could put the innate knowledge of himself or herself in each and every human being. Just like we have hunger, thirst, we have those natural things that we feel. There could be that natural thing that says, oh, God. And that's, oh, because God wants you to choose him. No, he doesn't. He's waiting for you not to choose him. It seems like he has more fun waiting for you to pick the other side. Like, that's always the thing. Like, that's always the thing. It's kind of weird. It's kind of, I don't know. But anybody who's interested, if you are a Christian and you see this and it's offending you, and you haven't taken the time before in your life to do some research, I'm going to give you a starting point. The Council of Nicaea. I hope I'm saying it correctly. Sometimes I get things mixed up. But Council of Nicaea. Google it and have fun. But before you do, if you are a person who doesn't receive adverse information very well, I would take a Valium or something, because it's going to fuck you up. Everything in the Bible was handpicked and chosen I don't understand why it is that we are doing these things anymore. We need to it's time to let these things go. Now, how is it that we can depend on someone who doesn't know their own history to guide us into an afterlife? What are the credentials of your pastor? In divinity, how does he know? What, you can see the anointing in him? Some goofy shit like that? Come on. I know for a lot of people, it's terrifying to think that you are in the world and there is nobody watching out for you except you. I know that's a terrifying thought. I went through it. I was raised Christian. I changed to Islam, and now I am DVS. Just that. That's all the creator I need. I know people are like, oh my God. Talk to me one-on-one. I will answer any questions you have. Put them in the comments. We can go through the whole thing. Whatever questions it is that you have about how I arrived at this point, please let me know. Ask any questions. I'm here for you. So to kind of wrap all of this up, because I don't want it to be long, again, I'm trying to get in the habit of doing this. It's so uncomfortable sitting in front of but yeah, I would much rather have conversations with live people. We'll get there. I guess we'll get there. No, I guess we'll get there. To wrap all of this up, an objective level of truth, a solid playing field on which truth stands, so that, if I tell you something, you can verify it without me. It's not based on my word. It's not based on how I feel. It's not based on what other people told me. You can verify this independently of me. Why we don't require that from people? Because we've been taught not to. We've been taught not to ask questions. We've been taught not to question what is said by the church. And the church makes claims of information that no one has, that can't be knowable. And I am not at the point in my life where I actually need somebody to answer questions that don't have answers for us. There may be answers out there, but we don't know them. And I'm okay not knowing the answers to these questions. I'm okay not knowing how we got here. I'm okay not knowing if there is a big man on a white cloud sitting waiting to judge me. I'm okay. I know that there's not. But yeah, in some way there is. That's a whole other show. But I'm okay with not having answers. That has to be the first thing. You have to be okay with not having answers to those questions that you have been told all this time. We know the answer, and this is what we're going to do to get you through to the other side. Nobody has that type of power. But think about it. If you really want to hold people in bondage, you have to be able to control their thinking. But beyond that, when you control their afterlife, their quote unquote afterlife, game over. You're the winner. You are the winner. When you can claim to have knowledge of what happens once we leave here, when absolutely nobody has that information. No one can tell you. No one with any type of absolute certainty. Nobody. But they'll tell you they know. As many things as I've come across, I've read, as many videos as I've watched, links and whatever the people, once we get to the part where the person that I'm listening to is telling me that they know what happens, that's when I click it off. I don't need to think that I know. I can use that energy to work and create right here in this dimension. I don't need to think that I have to control what's going to happen once I'm dead as well. Somebody else is already trying to control that and has control over it for millions of people. And the crazy part is, most people are there on a just in case. They don't believe half the shit that the church is saying. They don't believe what the preacher is saying. They don't even come because it makes them feel good. They're there just in case it might be true. Just in case. And that's all that the powers that be need, is for you to believe that just in case. They need you to be worried about just in case. They need you to spend your days thinking that you are being watched, thinking that every action that you make is being tallied and recorded. It is, but not there. It's being recorded in here. You are the only person who knows everything you do. You are the only person who will ever know all the things you do. And that is where God lives, for each and every one of us. I implore you. There's a guy, his name is Conscious Lee on TikTok. I like it. He's a young black man. And if you watch his content, you would think one thing of him. But if you listen closely, you know the truth, obviously. And I like, first of all, one of the things that I like is I like the way that he's progressing. He is making himself better as he goes along, and I dig that. But one of the things that he always says is research over me search. Before you start talking about what you have known and what you this and all of the information that you have in your head, take that information, right? Write it down, right? And then go and research what you think you know. I guarantee you the story that you find behind your beliefs is going to shock you. It's going to shock you. Whether you be Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Jainist, Taoist, whatever, Hindu, Buddhist, whatever, you're going to find some violence. You're going to find, maybe not Buddhist, Hindu, they're pretty much non-violent, but you're going to find a different story than you've been told all this time. In that vein, I often refer to them and they. The people who I am talking about, just so that I am clear, are predominantly white, cisgendered men and the people around them, that ilk. Those like-minded individuals in power, in powerful positions, in positions that keep people of color in our current situation, because, you know, they like to talk, well, everybody's free to do and become and yada, yada, yada. The freedom for many people in this country is just an abstract notion. It sounds good, like, yeah, you're free, and you can, I'm not saying that if you work hard and keep your focus and do that you can't achieve. What I'm saying is that when people say that you are free, they make it sound like you can just go and do. You may have, it may be available, but it may not be accessible. You get that? I want you to stay with me. It's available, but it's not accessible. Like the way that they did healthcare in this country. One of the reasons we don't have free healthcare in this country is because even with Medicare, as opposed to the government paying 100%, if you're a sept or sextagenarian in this country, you get Medicare. It would have paid 100%, but they were trying to keep it from black people, which is why there's that 20% coinsurance that you have to pay, because they needed something to make it hard for people of color to achieve it. So after you steal people's land, after you steal their birthright, after you steal basically them, you still have to keep them down, because you know that they'll rise and up and meet the challenge, because we always do. So We don't have free healthcare. One of the reasons, that's not the only reason, but one of the big factors is because those type of people, the they that I often refer to, they never want to see you have what they have. They think they should always have more, better, different than you. You don't deserve to have what they have. If they think that you are going to achieve the same thing, they will then deprive themselves in order to keep you from getting it. Which is the reason why we pay for education after high school in this country. One of the reasons is because they want people of color to not be able to afford tuition. Research urban research. You can, anything that I say, you can go and find out. Anything that you don't believe, please research. I please find out. Please, if I'm wrong, I'll come back and say I'm wrong. But please find out. For you, not for me. Find out for you. We have to begin to take the reins back. We ask people for things that they're never going to give us. We will never get equality. We will never get equanimity. We will never be put on the same playing field as the people who are supposedly the numerical majority in this particular country, because they know that we would rise above them, because we have and do and are. Yeah. So, when we ask these people, by virtue of our voting, by virtue of our rallies and our marches and our sit-ins, that's us begging permission from them, from people who will never give it to you. Yeah, they'll never. So we have to do it ourselves, is the bottom line, simple answer to all of it. If we want our children to learn Black history, we have to teach it, which means we have to learn it ourselves. If we want them to learn financial literacy, we have to learn it so that we can teach it to them ourselves. You can't let somebody else do that. There are people who are opening up Black banks. You know why? Because we have to do it ourselves. There are people who are creating whole Black communities. You know why? Because we have to do it ourselves. And we have to also not be afraid to defend what is ours, because historically we know that at some point they get jealous. It's not that we have more than them, because we've never had more than 0.5% of the total wealth of this country from the time that slavery ended, allegedly, at least, the chattel slavery part out here. Yeah, we know that after they think that we have gotten too much, that they're coming. They're coming with their white hoods. They're coming with their burning crosses. They're coming. We know. So we have to learn how to defend ourselves, because no one is going to do it for us. When we allow them to tell us that, we have to trust them and all the rest of that bullshit, it is them trying to lull us into a false sense of security, obviously. But when we vote, we participate in a system that is only going to serve to perpetuate all the ideals that are in place now. So I know it fucks with y'all. I know it fucks with y'all when y'all think of not voting, because it has been put into your head that everybody died so that you could vote. They died so that you have a choice. They died so that you could continue the struggle of freedom. This not abstract freedom, of actually being free, of actually being able to create your own wealth, your own banks, your own communities, your own opportunities for your own children with your own information, without ever having to ask them for a goddamn thing. But they want you to always come to them, which is why they put up the smoke and the mirrors about the voting and Well, Antoine, what are we gonna do if we don't vote? We make our own fucking system. We have to stop playing by their rules. And because they know that we are not ready to do that, they are always going to have the advantage. They know that it terrifies us to think that we would have to form our own nations and ideas and opinions and things like that. They know that. They've made it look so terrifying and so horrible, and the fact that they attack anybody who isn't corroborating with them, they make it look like something that you don't want to achieve. They make it look like something that isn't worth fighting for. But they want you there on the second Tuesday of November voting for the two idiots that they throw up in front of you. Which one of these motherfuckers is actually for us? Don't give me the lesser of the two evils bullshit. Give me definitive action in a different direction that is actually going to yield results that get people of color where we need to be, given that the year is fucking 2023. Give me that. We're not strong enough mentally and brave enough mentally to lead this system. We'll call it a system all day. We'll know that it is oppression. We'll call it out all day, but we are not prepared to stand on our own two fucking feet. And that is how they always win. Just because we don't know, don't mean that we don't need to be prepared to. But y'all not ready to have these conversations. Y'all still think that they are paying attention to doing the same things that they're telling us not to do. They're telling us what not to do to keep us under control. Do you think they operate by the same fucking rules? So why would you pay attention to the rules that they give you? There's a lot to talk about. What I would like, is there anyone who would like me to be more specific? Give me one area that you would like to hear me expound on specifically in the realm of things that I've talked about. Because we need to begin to have conversations like this. These conversations, and they're beginning, and that's what I love about what's happening right now in the world. I see podcasts and, people are having all these conversations, and I love it. But when I'm looking at the content, I realize that we are falling for the same trap over and over again. It's the same thing as with hip hop. It's going to be the same thing. It's a new fad. It comes in. We use it to speak the truth, and then all of a sudden, there are all these corporate ideas integrated into it, and all you see is people talking about relationships because people want to sell shit, and you can sell shit more when people are emotional. I would like us to get off this emotional roller coaster that we call progress in the United States and actually make some. I know it sounds simplistic, like I'm saying something that can just happen. I do understand that there needs to be revolution of the highest order. And when I say revolution, I'm talking about there will probably be bloodshed because these people do not want to give us our just due. It's not because I want people to die or to have to even go and fight. It is because they are not going to give it up. We have to take it. We have to take what's ours. We have to take what belongs to us. And we don't. We don't. We're become as passive as watching a man be strangled by an officer who has his knee on his neck for 8 minutes and some seconds. We become that passive to just film it, just record it. That man could be alive if 10 black men and what I'm saying, I'm not saying, believe me, I am not the first to jump into a fight ever. Will I fight? Yes. Not the first to start a fight or jump into a fight, but we have to be ready for that, honestly. Because otherwise nothing will change. They'll continue to rape your daughters. They'll continue to use your sons as labor. What are you ready to give up in order to make sure that your children have a better future? Anything? Many of us get caught in the trap of thinking we're doing our best. Are you really? Is this what your best is? This is it. We can do better. We must do better. Now,